Hello, welcome back to our Rich Artist Friday classes. Thank you for being in here, guys. It's really nice to see your familiar faces and also new faces in here. We do these every Friday, Wednesday. We were just saying it's been a long week, but it is Friday. We have made it to the end of the week, and I hope your Friday is feeling I don't know, just peaceful, I guess, and like you're rolling into the weekend, and maybe this is the last thing that you're gonna do today as part of your work day, or maybe if you're in the US, you're starting your day off with this, and sort of like as your last little bit of energy. I hope maybe these 30 minutes give you guys energy, give you motivation, reconnect you to yourself, encourage you to show up authentically and inspire you to empower yourself, I think, to remind yourself that you're already doing so well, you're doing so much, and acknowledge yourself for that. Like, guys, give yourself a pat on the back. I know for me, for example, I oftentimes feel like I could be doing more, and I don't recognize myself for the consistency that I do bring day in, day out. So that much for a long intro. Welcome, you guys. Today, I want to talk about business is not my thing. This sort of identity, or just sort of general statement that I hear from a lot of artists. I used to be somebody that would make that statement in a heartbeat as well. And I, over the course of, I would say, like 2 years, maybe, not even that long, something really shifted for me in perspective when it comes to viewing myself as a business person, as somebody that does business. And spoiler alert, if you are a working professional, you already are in the business of doing business, whether you're, freelancing, or even if you are an employee, operating under somebody else's guidance. You are operating business within a business. Maybe you yourself are your own business. And I find it quite bizarre that especially us artists that are freelancers, oftentimes don't identify ourselves as business people, or even if we do, we don't really empower ourselves within that identity. We don't really say, yes, I'm a business person. I am successful at business. I am good at business. I know what I'm doing within my business. And I can't blame us for looking at it that way. I wasn't taught anything about business in college when I was studying for photography. And even when I was working for other photographers as an assistant or something like that, that was the one field that nobody ever like took me by the hand and was like, here's how you do this, here's how you identify yourself in this way that you will feel empowered to take this upon yourself a couple years down the road. Now, I was lucky enough that I got to witness a lot of really successful photographers be really good at business. But for me, it felt very far away, and it also almost felt like it was in contrast, or sort of like in juxtaposition to my identity as an artist, as of, somebody that really wanted a lot of freedom in their day-to-day work life, a lot of spontaneity, a lot of free space for creativity, which, don't get me wrong, is so, so, so important. But I felt like if I honed in too much almost on my business skills, then one would be counteracting the other one. And at the same time, I desperately wanted to be successful. I desperately wanted the clients that I dreamt of working with to notice me and to be interested in working with me. And yet, if I sort of approached them, or if I took it in my own hands to sort of go after it and get what I want and make my own luck, then I just couldn't see myself in it. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever felt like this before. I'd love to hear a little bit of feedback for you. What is the thing that instinctly pops into your head when you hear the word business? Is that something that stresses you out? Is that something that causes fear within you? Is it something that you're like, like I don't get excited about it? Or is it something that you just sort of tolerate as part of your career, but not necessarily enjoy the aspect of? Um, for me, like when I something that really shifted this for me was when I started working with a business coach myself, and I started hiring other people to coach me in that area, because I on the regular felt like I was burning myself out sitting at home in front of my computer trying to go after the success that I wanted, but I didn't feel like I knew exactly what I was investing my time in was the right thing, or that it would be fruitful to me. And that alone was so stressful emotionally that I really didn't enjoy it. It really stressed me out, and it robbed me of the energy that I needed in order to then, when it came time to be spontaneous and be creative, I didn't even really want to do it anymore. And that shifted for me when I started having a sense of, okay, I know how to implement myself on the day to day. Like I know how to follow up with my outreach routines, and I know how to write emails to clients now to get them to notice me, which by the way, I did a video on as well. But um, what really had to shift for me first was that I could see a version of myself that could be successful at business, that could be successful at the business aspect of my career. Because like our art is also part of our business, right? But what I mean with business is more like the financial side of it, and the client communication side of things, and the outreach side of things, was something that I just felt very lost in, and I also didn't feel very empowered in. Mariam says, is it Mariam? It's not something that necessarily scares me, but I'm always questioning if I'm doing the business side the best way possible. For example, how I'm setting up my admin structure and marketing and keeping up with expenses, etc. All those admin things. I'm okay doing them, but I have no reference whether I could be doing it better / easier. I relate to that a lot. And before I started working together with a coach, I had no way of telling, even though I had sort of adapted the business structures that I saw the photographers that I assisted do and be successful at. But what really shifted for me was that I needed to have a shift in identity first. I needed to say, I can be a business person, I can be a businesswoman, a businessman, and I can show up and people be interested in working with me and people respect me. I always felt like, because I was young, and whenever I was talking to a client, they very rarely were as young as I was. They had, maybe 10, 20, 30 years of business experience on me, that I felt very intimidated by that. I also didn't feel respected. And I oftentimes also felt like I needed to sort of trick people into trusting me, or I needed to be somebody that I wasn't in order to be given the chances that I was after. And that the only way that I knew how to switch that was not actually experiencing success within these things that you just mentioned, like outreach routines and admin and financial success. What changed that for me was that I found a vision of myself that could be as successful as I wanted to be at exactly the stage of life that I was in, saying that regardless of me being young, regardless of me having things that I might still need to learn and experience, that doesn't mean that I don't deserve respect. That doesn't mean that there isn't clients out there that are looking for somebody exactly like me, that recognize my talent and that actually really, really enjoy the way that I show up, and that I am young, and that I am enthusiastic about working with people, that there is clients out there that want me above everybody else, that are excited to, you know, walk this path of doing a project together, because it's me, because but also like, because why not, right? I know a lot of us have this like, well, why me? There's so many other people out there that are so much better at what we do. That is such a big way of keeping yourself small, and it's also a pretty good excuse to not go after what you want. But if you're day in, day out trying to go after the success that you crave for yourself, but you're doing it out of a position of fear, or out of like a thing of like, well, I just need to suck it up, I need to bulldozer myself into it, like everybody else seems to be able to do it, so I just need to like, suck it up and do it, you'll never really start seeing the results that you're after. I think what's a lot more effective is to ask yourself, can I do all of this admin stuff, all of my outreach stuff from a place of, I got this, I feel confident in this, I am successful, I know how to run a business, and even the aspects that I haven't learned yet, I am allowing myself to learn along the way. There are certainly clients out there that are totally okay with exactly where I am at within my level of experience. That is not a hindrance to them. If anything, it's actually something that is of benefit to them in one way or another. I've done projects where I was the lead creative between 3 artists, and they were all like white cis het men in their 40s and 50s. They had like 30 years of experience on me, and yet they were told to follow my lead. We were a crew of 80 people, and I was the lead creative on that set. And I wouldn't have landed that job had I not been aware of the fact that me being the youngest there, me being from a different generation of artists, and having a different understanding, for example, of what it means to advocate for diverse representation within the different talent that we were shooting, I wouldn't have been on that set. So I needed to be that person first that could be okay with who I am and where I'm at, in order for other clients to recognize that as well. And like, it is something that did come up, for example, in my rate negotiations. I needed to sit myself down and ask myself, what is my worth beyond the service that I am giving, or that I am there to provide? And being young actually was one of those elements, having fresh eyes on the project that they were trying to do, and being able to give them the exact sort of visual direction that the brand was looking for their rebrand. Like, they were rebranding their brand image through this campaign that we were shooting. Like, all of these things are such assets. So ask yourself, okay, what are some of the advantages of where I'm currently at within my career? And do I really believe in them? Like, can I remind myself of them on the day-to-day? Can I draw strength out of my consistency and my willpower, rather than the success or the non-success that I'm seeing for myself? Like, that's a big one. I know exactly what it's like to look around and be looking for the success that we are all working so incredibly hard for. Like, I know how hardworking you guys are. And that can be so frustrating when you're like, it feels like everybody else that like I'm watching them do their career, like, they're getting handed opportunities left and right. It seems so easy for them. First of all, it's not easy for anybody. Don't compare yourself to other people. We only ever see like the shining, highlighting moments. We don't ever see the like grit and all of the like not so ideal things it took for them to get to where they are. And at the same time, if that's how you're drawing strength and encouragement to keep going in your business operations, it's gonna be a ride. It's gonna feel like this for you constantly. You're gonna be at a high, you're gonna be like, I got this, I'm motivated, I am inspired. And then the next day you're like, oh, I didn't get this job, or I'm not seeing the numbers that I want to see. It's gonna be very hard to show up consistently. Rather than doing that, tell yourself, I don't need proof of my success, because I have faith in it, because I know that if I'm consistent, that is the only outcome possible for me being successful with this thing, because I believe in it. And then at the same time, that I draw strength out of my consistency. I draw strength out of the little things that I do every single day. The fact that I have sat down and written an email. When it comes to like the identity of business, another thing that was really fascinating for me to learn was that, we get shown a very one-sided version of what successful business looks like. And I know I've talked about this before, but this version of what it means to be successful and to be a business person is a very like masculine point of view on business, because that is the types of people that have always held enough privilege to be able to be successful in the business in exactly the way that they are naturally as individuals. And I think that is such a shame, because being not that, maybe potentially, I know a lot of my clients are female or non-binary, holds so much advantage actually when it comes to developing a business and a career that is absolutely tailored to who you are as an individual. And for example, if you identify as female, one of our greatest strengths is that we are intuitive, that we have a natural intuition for expansion and growth. Like that is literally the female energy. Like that is literally within our identity already. But we get taught that we need to be like egotistical, that we need to be hard and unemotional, and that we need to be these sort of like productivity machines that just deliver in order to be successful. And we get very, very good at sort of bulldozering ourselves into being that, of getting up no matter how we're feeling and just doing our thing, and just being so hard on ourselves so that we can stay productive, that we can keep delivering and chasing after success. And it is the most exhausting thing that you can possibly do. It's also just it's so hard to identify with that, because a lot of us don't want to have to be that way. I'd much rather, there's something to be said about consistency, but what I needed in order to feel like I don't need to bulldoze myself into this anymore, I don't need to just suck it up and, not be so fragile about not having the energy to do something that seems so simple, like the simplest tasks, was knowing what I was doing, obviously, and I teach that as well, all the tactical sides of being successful in business. But first and foremost, I needed to be like, it's okay for me to spend X amount of time on this and then to walk away from it and to recover and to be free and to be creative and to not feel like I can always be doing more in my business, or if I don't find the energy for something one day, that I am a failure because I couldn't suck it up and just get through it. Like that is the best way to burn yourself out as fast as humanly possible. And B, it's not tapping into your strength of who you are and being allowing yourself to be vulnerable for once. I've learned that with a lot of the clients that I've recently started working with, my vulnerability was one of the biggest strengths, because it made me personable, because it made me authentic. Now, obviously, I'm always going to be professional, but I'm no longer trying to be somebody that I'm not or appear more professional than I am, because I have this like twisted version of myself in my head of this like suited up person that has had way more experience than they had, or somebody that it's no problem for me to get up and do my 8 hours in front of my computer every single day because I am just so damn good at my job. Like that's not really what my career looks like. And some of the biggest successes that I have attracted definitely did not come from operating out of that place. And ever since I shifted that for myself, I've also had way more energy to actually and way more motivation to sit down and do the little mundane things that like are the hardest to get done sometimes, right? I'd love to hear some feedback from you guys. What is something that you struggle with the most when it comes to your identity as a business person? Because you already are all running businesses. Like I know a lot of you are already freelancers. So where does that, I think that's a really interesting question. Where does that come from that it's hard for us to identify with being successful business entrepreneurs, for example? For a long time, I hated the word entrepreneur. Like it just sounded like, I don't know, in my head, it sounded like these like phony people that will do anything to get noticed and to make a sale, that ram their services down people's throats, that are, you know, if you're stuck in a corner with them at a party, they can't talk about anything else. They're always on some new business adventure. They're, I don't know, they're just, I'd love to hear if you have something like this in your head as well, but that's what I thought of when I thought entrepreneur. It is so hot here today. I think what helped me as well with this, like to let go of this thought of like business is not my thing, it really started shifting when I felt like I knew how to invest 2 hours per day into things that I considered businessy things like admin work, email, outreach, those kind of things. And know that I could do them with confidence. And then after a little while, also obviously start seeing results that can back me up within what I was doing. Like, for example, having certain numbers to back you up of, okay, if I reach out to this and this many brands, I'll hear back from so and so many. And out of the ones that I've heard back from, I've executed X amount of jobs. So now I have the statistic to know, okay, if I want to do one commercial job a month, I need to reach out to X amount of brands in order to have that conversion rate. Those kind of simple things just completely changed the game for me, where I knew, okay, I don't need to be sitting at my computer 8 hours a day in order to be able to know that I've done everything humanly possible in order to guarantee my success. Because if I didn't sit in front of my computer for 8 hours and I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted, guess what? I only had myself to blame. And like, that was so tough on myself. And that was also so unfair to us, because the structure of why we choose to be freelance artists, just it's not the best fit for a 9 to 5 job. And also that's not what we want in the first place. A lot of us choose this because that is exactly not what we want. So I needed to find a version of myself where I could still view myself as successful at the business that I was operating, but under my own sort of set of rules. I can do 2 hours on my computer each day and know that I've done enough. Or I can, you know, have a certain expectation of numbers each week for myself. And if I've done them by Thursday, I can give myself Friday off confidently and actually really truly enjoy that time to recharge and not feel guilty about it either. And another thing that really helped me was when I did set goals for myself, especially like quantity wise of like outreach, for example. I used to always be like, okay, well, I need to be able to do 100%, because everything less than 100% would just be my laziness, me not being able to suck it up enough. Again, that mentality of like, I just need to be tougher. I don't do that anymore. I aim for 50% of my goal. If I manage to do 50% of the 100, then that is a full success to me. And if I only manage to do 40, okay, I got pretty close. Okay. And anything past 50% is just like added bonus. I heard something like yesterday that really struck me that I loved. Somebody was like, if emotionally, or let's say mental health wise, because we all have days where it's like easy for us, and then we have days where it's like the last thing that we have capacity for. If mentally you are at 30% and you give it 30%, like you deliver 30% that day, you've given 100%. Isn't that amazing? Like if on a day you're feeling not so hot, like maybe you're at like a 60 and you give it 60%, you've done 100% within your capacity. Like let's start looking at it that way. Like that feels a lot more accurate to me, and that honestly is a much less toxic way of doing business, and it's also a lot more sustainable. And I think the version of what we think is possible success-wise based on how much work we need to be doing, that is also something that is probably something that you've made a very distinct assumption about in your head, and that is the standard that you're holding yourself to. But if it's something that you find yourself falling short of again and again, it might be worth reassessing that belief. If you believe I need to sit in front of my computer for 8 hours a day and be on the whole time and never get distracted and never take a break in order to be successful, then that is what your reality is going to look like. But is there photographers out there that rarely ever check their emails, or that rarely ever do a lot of work in front of the computer? Absolutely. You know, it might take a little bit of time and dedication in order to get to that point where your career looks like that. But is it possible? Absolutely. Has it been done by other people? Absolutely. But is it possible for you? Like, can you picture that for yourself? You know, maybe one day you'll have an agent, you'll have a team, you'll have a business manager, you'll have an accountant, you'll have a crew of people that do this for you because you just want to be the talent. And that's what your career looks like. Absolutely is possible, but you need to find that version in your head of yourself first, and then believe that you can have that. So, you know, circles back to self-worth as well. I hope this gave you a little bit of food for thought. I'd love to hear a really quick round of feedback. What was your number one takeaway from today? What is something that you're stepping into the weekend with, maybe, or maybe something that you'd like to remind your future self of, not to forget the next time you're feeling overwhelmed, or like you don't got this, and you do. Trust me, you do. Yeah, while I let you guys write your biggest takeaway in the comments, I'd love to read them out for others to hear as well. We do these classes every Friday, always at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. They're always going to be free. I just want you guys to have this input, and I want you guys to feel empowered to chase after your dreams. If you really want more tactical input into how to do effective outreach, how to write client approaching emails, how to show up in client calls, how to maybe set up your accounting system, maybe you're struggling financially, maybe you have a huge problem with asking your worth when it comes to rate negotiations with clients, then hit me up. I do one-on-one coaching as well. Let me help you figure this out for yourself so that you can preserve your creative energy and your mental capacity to actually get to have the career that you want to have. Maybe you don't want to sit in front of your computer for 8 hours a day and still feel like you're not doing enough. I've certainly been there, and I think you deserve better. So slide into my DMs or email me and let me help you, please. I see a comment here. I love what you said about giving our full potential when we are at 30 or 60%. That's really eye-opening to look at in that way. Absolutely. And we're all human. And if we can't be human in the way that we operate our business, it is going to fail. You know, we always feel like, well, if I can only give those extra 10% that you might not have, then that success will come quicker. But it's actually the opposite. If you're working against yourself, guess what? You are the business. You know, like you are the fuel in the tank. And if there's no fuel in your tank, there is no business. So, and on the flip side, there is a way to do business that actually does feel more sustainable to you, and that will give you the success that you want and the opportunities. And honestly, guys, I don't know if you believe in this or not, but I certainly do. I actually think it's a much faster way to start seeing results and to start attracting opportunities that you're after, is if you're in alignment with something that feels good to you. Um, Although I know that it oftentimes feels counterintuitive to start thinking about it that way. But what do we have to lose, right? You know, just saying. Anyways, guys, it was so good to see you guys in here. Thank you for being here. I already have my next couple of classes up on Eventbrite for every Friday, so you guys can check out the different subjects. Maybe already sign up for the ones that really interest you, so you can put it in your calendar. And I will see you guys next week. Oh, I upload these recordings on YouTube as well, so if you have a friend where you're like, hey, this was a really good one, just send them over to my YouTube channel so they can watch the recording of what we talked about today. I love you guys. Mwah.